Welcome back to the 2023 FVC Summer Series. It is round 5 at the Hungarian Grand Prix. I don't know what else I'm going to be saying here. I've got nothing else on my notes to go with. But joining me tonight in the commentary booth is going to be Apex.
Hello.
Welcome.
See, I got
on
my
in.
cue that time.
Yes, you did. You didn't miss it like the first time. Coming out first, we have what looks to be a Williams and a McLaren. Going to be King and OJ. Let's head on board following the Williams driver. Getting reports it's going to be a wet start to the race, 90% likelihood. Not sure if it's going to be drying up or staying wet any further in, but the only way to find out is to wait and see. 17 minutes of qualifying for all the drivers who set a lap as best as they can. And while we wait for the out laps to complete, why don't we have a quick look at the previous pole positions around this circuit. Last time out, the 2022 Summer Series, it was set by Apex. Before that, in the 2021 Summer Series, by LCR F1 Ben. Data was unfortunately lost for Season 1, so we have no idea who took it then. However, very competitive track, and nobody has a more than one pole at this location.
Yeah, obviously, a great circuit we are here in Hungary, of course. That's Season 1, obviously getting lost records. I do believe it was myself, but that's going off of my memory, which it is about 4 years ago now, Season 1, so we can't really trust one person's memory. But yeah, as you said, no driver has ever got pole here twice. I think we're going to be adding another new driver to that today, as neither me or F1 Ben are here today. Indeed, so we are going to be definitely adding a new driver. And I think it's going to be a good fight for pole. It's a lovely twisty track. I don't know why people don't really like this track. It is a really fun track to sweep through. It's probably one of the better tracks on the current calendar. And yeah, I really enjoy this track.
If I had to take a wild guess myself as to why people don't like it, it can be some of these high-speed corners, especially this one here, OJ setting a purple first sector. Turn 4, the very high-speed uphill left-hand corner leading into the rest of this sector is quite difficult to get right, especially with these chicanes here. They're a lot tighter than you think, moving around turn 6 and 7. Haas in the way, spun ahead. I'm going to be guessing that is Mo Sullivan. But no, it won't be, as Sullivan is in the pit, so that is going to be Azzy that has spun it round through the chicanes.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see if you're Azzy, and it's definitely not what you want to see if you're me. But I know Azzy. Azzy is an unbelievably quick driver. She just knows where to place the car and where to find time. Yeah, I definitely expect Azzy to be up the front today.
Indeed, I expect that as well. OJ coming around the final corner, heading across the line, setting the bar at a 1:16.904 for the Williams team. King looks to have aborted the lap in the background, and Azzy's going to be next up to start one of the flying laps. So I'm going to be having a look. I think it's a Red Bull of Dorado is going to be the next car up to set a lap.
That's a purple sector too. This could be a quick lap. Eldorado's been a bit off the pace all season, obviously doing very well in the pre-season race this season, and the pre-season race in the FVC Season 5 as he comes up to the line now. P2.
A
The OJ is a very, very good driver.
Indeed, he is. A number of yellow flags in the final sector might be getting in the way of some of the fast lap drivers, but people getting prepared for their runs.
Yeah, so around here it is about that low end traction. Obviously there are very fast corners, very mid speed, but there is also a lot of low speed that you really need to be careful at. A lot of the curves around here are slippy, a lot like Australia. So that's something else you've got to look out for. But other than that, a really, really great track to race around. And it feels really good when you do manage to hook that lap up. But obviously the issue we have now is that obviously it is now strict track limits, which keeps everyone in them track limits, but it's also a lot harder to stay within them track limits around here.
Indeed it is. Number of other laps coming through there, as we see in Thunderbird for Mercedes setting a 1:16.866 heading up into provisional pole position, as well as Azzy heading to third with a 1:17.7. I definitely expect she'll be going faster later in the session. Background, we've seen the AlphaTauri of Curly as well, a 1:17.436 for him. Sudden board again with Finnell for another lap around the Hungaroring circuit, heading into what I believe is turn 2 here, just after the second part of the DRS zone. Then it's a downhill rush up to turn 4. It's all flat out all the way up here And if you got your setup right, am I correct in saying that you can even take turn 4 somewhat flat?
Yes, 100%. You can definitely play that corner flat. In these much higher downforce cars. Maybe in F1 2016 you couldn't do that. These cars today, 100% you can. It is so easy to just hook it up, and it feels so good when you can. You just got to use that inside curb, and the issue with that is obviously it's a very slippy curb. It's a very fine margin between not slipping and getting through it flat. But if you can do it, you can find a lot of time here.
Indeed you can. We've seen Finnell there setting a couple first sector, but running to the back of an Alpine, breaking off a front wing. That was looking to be a very quick lap, but I'm not sure who that Alpine was. I'll take a look. That's going to be Rosenquist as Scarlett is in the pit lane.
Yeah, to me that's going to be a slam dunk penalty on Rosenquist, sitting on the racing line on a slow lap, and Finnell's obviously in a fast lap. There's nowhere that Finnell can really go, and Rosenquist is sitting on the racing line. So to me, that's going to be a slam dunk right there.
It all depends if it gets submitted after the race or after anything, but definitely is looking that way. It was a very quick lap, even missing the apex at turn 4. It was a purple first sector. I don't think it was for the middle sector, however it still would have been up there most likely.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. But that's the whole part of this. You got to hook up your lap in qualifying. You got to find the space, and it is very easy to find the space. You've just got to play your cards right. But yeah, that's very unfortunate there.
Indeed it is. Getting a couple more reports. It's going to be possibly a wet race the entire way through. 60 minutes, it's down to a 5% chance, and it's still at 45 minutes remaining. However, qualifying, it's going to be completely dry by the looks of it. King, a 1:16.792, but it was a purple first and I think middle sector for WR. Tristan for the AlphaTauri team, going to be coming around the last corner. Across the line, makes good use of the exit curbing. Only 4th place at 1:17 as a backwards Alpine in the background coming around the final corner. Again, they're going to be Rosenquist as Scarlett still in pit lane. 7.5 minutes gone, only 9 out of our drivers have a lap set currently. Make that 10 of them now, as Rosenquist undoubtedly gets across the line finally.
Yeah, so this is going to be an issue that you're gonna see with qualifying. Well, we've got now a confirmed wet race. A lot of these drivers, when they practice, when they get their setups, they're only setting up for the dry, which is naive in a sense. We saw a couple drivers come out straight away. Undoubtedly, they only have dry setups. They are going to struggle in the race. So the likes of OJ, the likes of King, they probably only have dry setups. They probably have not checked the weather, gone straight out on their dry setup, and now they're going to have to just commit to a dry setup in the rain, which around here probably doesn't hurt you as much as it would on a much higher downforce dependent track, but it's still really going to affect you. You're still going to be sliding through corners. You're not going to be able to put the traction down. And yeah, I think that the other issue is you're going to see a lot of issues for the guys that are running no traction control today. If I was there today, I would be struggling. No traction control in the wet is shocking. Definitely on this game. So I feel like we're going to see a big jump in pace from the guys that are using mid to high traction control today, and that's the same with ABS.
Very valuable insight there from our previous, in fact, our 2-time champion from our main series. Thunderbird again taking provisional pole position, a 1:16.740. There's a couple more drivers setting lap times, including Pixels with a 1:18.644. Coming around the last corner as well, Mo Sullivan standing in for Haas, heading across the line, sets himself into 9th provisionally with a 1:17.911.
Yeah, great lap, tidy. Nice to see Mo Sullivan back. I believe a debut in the main series, or in the main series championships, that is. Just slightly getting in the way of that Ferrari there. I don't know if they were on a fast lap or not.
I'd take a guess it probably was, but he did come up into traffic around the turn 5 and 6 area for his own lap, as we've seen.
Yes. Oh.
Speaking of, there's the yellow flags up for the Alfa Romeos around that sector, as well as the Aston Martin of Pixels too. Head over and see what's going there. We jump over to Pixels on the grass. Bit of impromptu grass
more
cutting there,
annoying.
but hopefully doesn't have that happen in the race. The grass is going to be even more slippery. Regardless of what tyre you're on, it's going to be the place that you don't want to be during the race.
I wouldn't count Pixels out though. As we know, Pixels does make light of bad situations. Pixels being one of the most opportunistic drivers that there is on the grid. Keeps it clean, keeps it tidy, and ends up, 10 points ahead of me in the championship. I guess that works. But yeah, Pixel's obviously a great opportunistic driver, manages to pull something out of a bag that is about 2 centimeters deep, and it works. So I think we're going to see quite good things from Pixels today. If he can just keep it out of the barriers, keep it out of other cars, I think we'll see something good today.
Hopefully we do, as we see the second Aston Martin driver of Potato 50 joining into the lobby, taking control very shortly. That gives us 19 drivers for the main race. Potato obviously spending a long time away from the FVC, all of it entirely the FVC, due to some circumstances that have been resolved now, but he is still going to be under a bit of a closer watch, don't you think, for these next few races?
Yeah, definitely. I think the today is a day that Matato's got to come in or Groomer as I like to call him, Groomer's got to come in and show the driver that he is. Not the bad driver that we've seen taking people out in the past. We want to see the good Groomer, the challenging for the championship with Scarlett in season 4, the constructors championship GOAT, as they would say, from season 3. Groomer needs to come in now, knuckle down in that Aston Martin and show the driver that he is. And I know for a fact that Groomer is a great driver, but he's now got to show the rest of the grid, the rest of the stewards here, and the rest of the admin team that he is that good driver. And if he can keep coming in and doing that, I'm sure he's going to fit right back in with everyone.
Indeed. Now, I hate to bring this up myself, but as I've been watching Psycho here, I've noticed that there's number 45 on that car.
Yeah, so I think Psycho might have stolen your number.
Indeed, I think he has. Not minding too much. I'm not a driver for the main series. Last time I raced any of this was back in Season 4, discounting FVC 2, obviously. I'm not the greatest driver in the F1 cars, that's why I've put myself to the commentary booth, but pretty sure that's meant to be a reserve number there, Psycho.
Yeah, I think there is a rule that says something about a warning. So, though it's not that bad, Psycho may be getting an warning, but as long as Psycho resolves it, there should be no issue.
Indeed, there should be. Jump over now. 4.5 minutes left of qualifying. Still 2 drivers yet to set a lap. One of them being Borna Jordi. Let's jump on board with the Ferrari driver as we go round one more time for the onboard. Heading around turn 1, back into the DRS zone after split in 2. Got to dive it in nice and tight for the entry turn 3, but be careful not to wash out wide, as you can very easily do. Being a downhill corner, then it's the flat out run up to turn 4. Purple first sector for the Ferrari driver, nails the inside perfectly, a little bit of a lift to get it turned in perfectly. And then grips it up well, exiting turn 5. Turn 6 and 7, the chicane is a lot tighter than it may look. Navigates it well. Now moving on to 8 and 9, it's basically 2 90-degree corners, not very good and invalidates the lap through the middle of the second sector. Was looking promising to begin with, but it is all down the drain. Gonna have to make his way back to the start line and get another shot at that.
Yeah, as I said, the curbs around here, tragic. If you hit one and you wash out wide, that's going to ruin your line into the next corner, which is going to ruin the next corner, and then the next one after that. Around here, you need to be precision perfect going through that sector 2. Geordie just missing out on it, but I'm sure if Geordie was to go in just then, Geordie could have put new tyres on and come back out. I don't know what Geordie's doing. Geordie might have just relegated themselves to the back of the grid.
You never know, those tyres might still have a bit of life left in them, depending on how much he did let off.
Geordie's now going to have to go around and recharge, as you can see that rear light flashing, showing that Geordie is recharging, but I don't know. I know the tyre deg is quite low here, but still, you'd want to be on fresh tyres if you want to set a fast lap. I mean, he set a purple sector 1. I'd expect someone that's setting purple sector 1s to want a fresh set of tyres. But I mean, if Geordie feels like that he can pull it out of the bag, then I'm not going to be one to judge. One person that has been pulling it out of the bag though, bloody Yappa, unbelievable from the Alfa Romeo driver. Currently in the pits, but what a driver this season. Blah has been on a whole new level. Obviously won the Mexican Grand Prix in season 4. That was the race that Scarlett crashed out on the final lap on, if you don't remember that. Sorry, Scarlett. But obviously Blah has sort of been on and about the podium and has only ever won one race, I believe, being that race in Mexico.
The only single race he's ever won, and he's been in position to win a number of races as well since the ending of Season 5 and moving into the Summer Series. But just his own few mistakes have caused him to just drop out of it at times. As we see, big slide there from the McLaren of King, coming round what I believe is turn 11. Let's grab the replay of that. Bring it up on screen with our new replay graphic.
Yeah, that's going to be King's final lap. That's King at least second place.
It's coming around, too ambitious around turn 11 and slides into the right-hand wall. That is going to be him. Second place at best. Just losing out again to Blah.
As he is sitting behind, and as me and Azzy like to joke about when we're in a phone call together in the race, Azzy loves a last minute special, a last lap special, and as we've seen so many times this season, that last lap special has always been Azzy putting it onto pole. So I would definitely watch out for that. But obviously Blah is going to cross the line first to start his lap. So
indeed, there's about 30 seconds or so left of qualifying plus 1 lap. Yep, as we've seen, 33 seconds, as there's just a small gap in the yellow sectors. A lot of people trying to get in the way, and Harrison M for McLaren by 2 thousandths moves up into provisional pole position. 1:16.287, and he's not going to get another lap. That is his final attempt.
Harrison decided to show up today.
Jump over to Blah and follow. There's a lot of traffic in his way. He wants to get anything. Coming up to the end of the first sector, doesn't go purple.
Yeah, that's going to be rough for Blah. The issue Blah's going to have now is that traffic is going to hinder the rest of his lap. And instead of gaining little bits of time throughout the lap, he's now going to have to gain the time from that first sector and more if he wants to have a chance of beating Harrison. And he's got to push even further because Azzy's just going to be coming behind.
Indeed he is. Number of drivers also moving up.
Sector 2.
It is a purple middle sector. Just watching the timing tower. Scarlett moves up into 5th. OJ moves up to 4th. I believe he's also on another lap. Sick qualifying is over. Borna Jordi a 5-place penalty for collision with his teammate.
Oh, that is going to be controversial for the Ferrari team.
Coming across the line, Blah retakes provisional pole. It's a 1:16.085. Up next is going to be Harrison M to respond. Jumping over to Azzy, as Azzy's a little bit ahead. Coming around the final corner, it's a 1:16.690 she has to beat. Going across the line, she can definitely do it, but only moves up to 5th, a 1:16.573. Jumping over to the McLaren of Harrison M, who aborts it. Then it's going to be a Aston Martin of Pixels, also in the pit lane, trying to jump over anyone that is still on the track. OJ is still coming around the final corners, currently sat in 4th place. It's a 1:16.523, keeps it to the inside nicely, doesn't use all the space on the outside though, very quickly turns off, stays 4th place. I believe there's still one car left out. Crawling back to pit lane is going to be 19th place of Borna Jordi, plus his 5-place penalty. Not going to be moving up any from there.
Jordi will be starting last.
Yep, but collision with his teammate. I wonder what happened there. We didn't quite get to see it. But as it stands, there is your qualifying order. Blah takes pole again by 0.2 of a second over Harrison M, and King will be 3rd.
Azzy in 5th.
Starting
the
all
lowest
the way.
As he's positioned, started all season.
All the way down on the 3rd row, and of course, we've seen what can happen at this track, both in-game and in real life, especially on a wet start.
Yeah, I think today is going to be an interesting one. We've got some fast people that are slowed that are down at the bottom. Obviously, Matato Greenmer is down in 15th. So I think we're going to see a few recovery drives today.
Well, post-qualifying, here is your starting grid for the race. Blyapper takes pole for Alfa Romeo team, and just over 2 tenths behind is going to be the McLaren of Harrison M. Third place also has to McLaren, with King taking a 4/10 of a second gap. Fourth goes to OJ English, and down in fifth starts Azzy. Sixth heads to Scarlett, seventh to Finnell, eighth to Thunderbird, ninth to HP8 Gamer, and 10th to the AlphaTauri of WR Tristan. Moving on down the grid, Mo Sullivan takes 11th, Psycho in 12th, the Red Bull of Dorado in 13th, Curly in 14th, Potato returning to take 15th on the grid, Demon 16th, Pixel 17th, Rosenquist in 18th, and last is Geordie in 19th. Welcome back to the 2023 FVC Summer Series Round 5 at the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're just finished with qualifying. We've seen Blah for the Alfa Romeo take pole, and it is a soaking wet start for Round 5. Weather forecasted today is going to be wet all the way through, so it's definitely going to be a very interesting race. We see the McLaren there of Harrison M taking second, getting a little bit unstable around the first corner, trying to get those tyres warmed up. Moving on down the grid, third place is taken up by King and fourth by OG English, and starting down in the third row is the surprise of Azzy. Very uncharacteristic qualifying considering how fast she has been previously in the season, but it is only going to be up hopefully for her. Further down, going to have a previous race winner. Scarly 42 takes up 6th place and Finnell is in 7th. Mercedes Thunderbird takes 8th place and HV8 goes to Blah's teammate down in 9th. WR Tristan for the AlphaTauri team takes 10th place, and Mo Sullivan, standing in for Haas in place of Apex, who joins me today in the commentary booth, is 11th place. Psycho in 12th and Dorado down in 13th. Curly 47 takes 14th place, and interestingly is starting on the intermediate compound tyres as opposed to everybody else on the wet. It is definitely looking to be very treacherous conditions. It'll be interesting to see how he does in the start. Green banded tyres there as we see one of the Aston Martins, I believe, of Pixels taking over the chicane. 15th place goes to Mateo D, returning to the FVC after an absence of I believe about a year or so. Demon will take 16th place. We see him just off the track there slightly. Drivers dealing with the conditions as best they can. 17th goes to FV Pixels, 18th to VNT Rosenquist, and 19th to Borna Jordi. How do you think this start's going to go, Apex?
I think we are about to have one of the most chaotic starts in FVC history. I would not be surprised if we got a lap 1 safety car, and I would not be surprised if we got a full race restart here. These conditions look treacherous, and the fact that we've got people risking inters just shows that we're going to have an absolutely chaotic race. We've got an Alfa Romeo spinning out on the grid. Yeah, we are looking at one of the possibly the best races in FVC history, or possibly one of the worst. Who knows?
The only way to find out is to see. On the grid, the lights are not turning on for whatever reason. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5 red lights are all on. It's lights out and away we go. It looks to be a good start from everybody. Red Bull especially getting a very good launch of, I'm pretty sure that is going to be Dorado. Moving up the grid, Blad's got a terrible start. The McLarens are already up into first and second with Scarlett in third. Scarlett's also moving up the grid.
5 wide.
Up the grid, they are 3 and 4 wide a couple of the way through. Losing out on the start is not even quite sure. In fact, no, Blad's lost out heavily all the way down into 9th, now 10th. Pole position thrown away immediately. Scarlett rocketing up to first place, and McLaren's going to be fighting each other round turn 2. Coming all the way down now. It's going to be very risky. You cannot take this flat in the wet weather conditions, I'm pretty sure. Through turn 4,
no,
there's just not enough grip, no matter how much downforce you're running.
Scarlett up from 6th into first place. Scarlett showing her its superior experience in the league, experience in the wet, and experience around here. Scarlett obviously winning the last race we had around here, and well, showing that she knows what she's doing here today. Unbelievable start.
The drivers, we see Mo Sullivan getting spun around, falling down off the grid to 19th. Also losing it heavily is going to be Curly. The intermediate's not paying off, just not enough grip on that tyre as he's down in 17th, nearly 18th place. Predicted pit stop strategy there, 1 stop on lap 17 to 24 or 2 stops. As we've seen below, all predicted to be wet the entire way through. Jumping up again towards the front. Scarlett's already pulling out a quite substantial lead over the McLarens, nearly a second already. As he is fighting to have a look around the outside of Harrison M. You're never going to make it around that corner. It's too long and too wet. And of course, you're not going to get any DRS assistance down the straight at all. You're just going to have to rely on pure slipstream and whatever your car's got in the banks. But Azzy does have a faster car than McLaren, gaining all the way up to turn 1, has looked down the inside, braking just a little bit later, makes the move, trying get down the inside. Harrison M somehow making the grip work around the outside. Pixels a 5-second penalty for speeding in pit lane. They're still going to be side by side heading down to turn 2. Azzy this time having to take a try at the outside line. Again, somehow making it stick. Little unstable there from Harrison M. Banging wheels around turn 3. They're still going to be side by side heading up to turn 4. Someone's going to have to yield here. HP8 retiring in the session as he gets up ahead. Let's jump back and see what's happening there. And as a safety car is deployed, virtual safety cars, we see the Alfa Romeo on the right hand side there.
Yeah, what I think's happened there is that HB8's gotten loose, either through contact or just trying to put some traction down, and has just lost it on the curve there, put it in the wall. It's unfortunate, but I said it was going to happen today. I said it could happen, and unfortunately it has. No more HB8 in this race. It's unfortunate. It was a race of what could have been for HB8, but unfortunately what could have been is now what isn't in this race.
It is. Virtual safety car, we've seen Blah there getting disconnected while we were under it. I will try and get him back into the race. I think I have him added. Indeed I do. Get the invite sent. Back in, still under the virtual safety car. Nobody willing to go into the pits as it is still somehow not being called, considering the debris is off the track.
I think we're going to see the end of it very, very soon.
There we go. Indeed we are, and drive-through penalty for Dorado for speeding under a virtual safety car. Well, I think Pixels might have got something. In fact, no, that's going to be for the speeding in pit lane. Scarlett was in a prime position there, getting out of the final corner, but charging up is going to be King, only half second back.
Yeah, the thing is you've got now is King is a brilliant driver. King will catch up to Scarlett and will attempt an overtake on Scarlett. Azzy's job now at the front of that massive queue is to try and catch up to King. That's 3 seconds, and I think Azzy is actually under threat and overtaken by Harrison.
Indeed. Not doing well. I was jumping down here as I seen OJ and Finn getting quite close together. A little bit of lag from the lobby there. Red Bull pulling out to try and make an overtake against somebody, I'm not quite sure who. Possibly against one of the Mercedes.
So yeah, as I said in qualifying, Azzy obviously running no traction control, which in the wet conditions is absolutely treacherous. You are on the limit the whole time. So I am not surprised that Azzy is losing to the likes of Harrison, who Harrison I believe runs full traction control. So Harrison is going to have that extra traction from the game. Obviously, this game favouring the assists.
You say that as he spins round out of the final corner, or near the final corner, sorry. Addy moving up to third, and that is huge loss. Down and out of the points for Harrison M.
Ooh.
Jumping over to the replay scene. Pure curse of the commentator there, coming round turn 13. Little too ambitious on the throttle, paired up with that curb, just spins it round. That's an even worse curse of the commentator than I have.
Yeah, I guess we're back to a lap ago, except there is no Harrison now. As he has now got 4.5 seconds to make up to try and catch up to King. Scarlett seems to be keeping King honest, keeping that gap between them, sort of around that half a second, if I can see that correctly.
Indeed, it is about 0.6 of a second now, but it is hovering around that half-second gap between those two. One thing I'm surprised about, Curly has not decided to change off those intermediate tyres yet.
Well, it could get lighter. I obviously I'm not in the race. I can't. I'm not an engineer. I can't tell if it's going to get lighter or not. But if it does get lighter, maybe it could be a good call.
From the reports I got from the drivers in our commentary channel, it is meant to get lighter, but we didn't see any intermediate scheduled on the predicted pit stop strategy. However, we know how accurate that can be sometimes, and how inaccurate it can be at others.
For sure. I am unsure of Curly's strategy, though. I'm not too sure that Curly is on the right strategy here. I think Curly's going to have a bit of an issue today, because the Inters are just not going to move that water that you need to be moved quick enough. Yes, he may not have to pit when it gets a bit lighter, but if it gets lighter to them final 15 laps, it's not going to matter, because that's when everyone's going to pit for Inters anyway. So
those Inters tyres he's on now, though, will be very worn down by that stage of the race. And a counterpoint is that dry line, we can already see it somewhat forming despite these treacherous conditions due to how close all these cars are together.
Yeah, obviously that dry line is going to be there, but that's just where the cars are actually moving the water.
Speaking of intermediates, Mo Sullivan in 17th is taking a gamble on them himself.
Right. That's one way to risk your debut, I guess.
Personally, I don't quite think it's there yet. It is still very, very heavy rain.
He's absolutely throwing it down there. As you can see, the spectators all with their umbrellas open. I don't think this rain's going to be easing up anytime soon, so I'm not too sure if intermediates are going to be the right call for everyone.
We'll just have to wait and see how it is moving on through the race. This gap is opening up a little bit, as is the gap up at the front. Let's jump down to... Well, it was down at 0.2 of a second. It has opened up a little bit more now. Thunderbird and Potato were very close to each other, down for 7th place, even 6th place somewhat. That is opening up just a little. Pixels, another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings.
Can I just point out, Potato in 8th, that's up 7 positions in 5 laps, or 6 laps now. Unbelievable stuff. What a debut back.
Indeed it is, however, he still has to keep the rest of the race. A very ambitious dive from Thunderbird against Tristan, moving up into the first corner. Going to be side by side, very similar to Azzy and Hart and them coming into the next couple of corners. Thunderbird just losing out, but trying to go for the switchback. Just not enough grip on the outside line, but he's going to be putting himself on the outside again for turn 3.
That's a dangerous one there. You've got to be careful going through there, definitely in these conditions. It's risky enough in the dry. It's very risky in the wet. Ooh.
Somehow they get through it cleanly. Thunderbird just having to run off the track through turn 4, keeping it side by side still through 5. Geordie, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings.
Yeah, so Thunderbird's definitely going to have got a warning for going off the track there. But I think Thunderbird might have just made it work. Thunderbird into 6th, Tristan dropping a place. I say that, Tristan's coming back.
Getting a much better drive out of the corner, making an easy pass against the Mercedes in the current conditions. Mo Sullivan himself getting a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. We've seen from the onboard camera just how wet it is.
Yeah, I think the guys on Inter's really not the call. Obviously, Mo Sullivan obviously just getting a penalty. I have a feeling that there's so little grip now that it's just impossible to make the corners, and obviously on strict, if you can't make the corner, you're going to get a warning, and enough of them, and you're going to get a penalty. So I feel like for Mo Sullivan, just pit again, pit for the wets, and just try and go long, go to the end.
And of course, considering where Mo Sullivan is on track, he's quite a long way from that main snake, as is Curly, so that rain's going to be reforming on that line, just because it's not getting cleared out by the full wet weather runners. We see Thunderbird making another look down through the inside and then the outside through 2 and 3. King himself getting a penalty now for multiple warnings. That's uncharacteristic for the McLaren driver.
And talking of reforming, Azzy on the back of King now.
Indeed she is. We'll keep an eye on the gaps of that battle, but we'll stay here as these two are not giving each other an inch at all. Tristan right at the back of that Mercedes.
Just losing traction there. Lucky to have caught that little snap. That's why the curbs are dangerous around here. You touch the curb in the wet with these wet weather tyres on, and you're going to go sideways. It's a case of,
as we see there,
3-second penalty for Tristan.
Tristan getting a penalty of his own, running over the left-hand side curbs around the ending of the circuit.
That's another thing with this track. limits around here don't really work. They're a bit like Australia. You can go off the
Very
track
deep
and
on
be
the
fine.
brakes there.
And you can go off track and it not be fine.
Also keep an eye on the battle behind. There's a big slide there.
Ooh.
As we see, Blah is catching the Aston Martin of Mateto as well, just behind this little fight. So the longer these two battle, the longer those two are going to catch up, and we could see a four-way fight for 6th place. But as we look back ahead, Thunderbird is miles up the road compared to last time we seen him.
Yeah, I think that snap really just... Oh, I don't want to say humbled, but humbled Tristan there. I think Tristan's just got to get back in the groove, keep it calm, keep it relaxed, and we should be fine. As that gap up front for Azzy is 2/10, I think they might be side by side.
Very
if not,
close to
they're
it.
tail to tail. As you can see there, that is a phenomenal sight in the wet. Unbelievable scenes. You want to be careful with that curve on the right-hand side.
Indeed, and we can just hear the revs picking up, just too eager on the throttle, keeps going in a straight line, out of the corner though. Very highly skilled driver, all these, but Azzy is looking for any way past that McLaren that she can.
I think what we're watching here is what I was talking about earlier. Obviously, Azzy, no traction control in that ass, and I'm 90% sure King uses traction control.
Oh,
as
big
you can
spin.
see, as he's round,
Keeps it out of the wall, that front wing is intact, but it's going to be losing another couple of positions as well. Getting herself spun back round, the last position going to lose out to is possibly this big group of 3 here, depending on how fast she gets it going.
yeah, that's unfortunate there. As I was just talking about the traction control situation of how stable King's car looks through them corners due to the traction control, and how unstable Azzy's car looks through the corners. Lights up the rear tyres, wants to make sure they're not cooked, because obviously that is going to make her life a lot worse. Unfortunate. Hopefully Azzy can bring it back. Azzy's just going to be hoping for a safety car now, I feel. Just to bring her a lot closer to that battle up ahead. She's going to make no issues of this little group, but I feel like getting further up is going to be a bit more of an issue.
Indeed. These are all very close together. We'll jump down now to 12th place, or 13th place, sorry. As Jordi and Dorado are going at it for a place, maybe outside of the points, but they're just trying to get any advantage they can over each other. So we see Rose and Chris now heading into pit lane for the intermediate tyres. Possibly going to be testing out for Scarlet, depending on how they feel. Could be seeing a little bit of teamwork between them. Let's jump back up to this big group of 4. Currently being headed by Tristan.
I just still don't see why people are hitting the inters. I don't see the rain getting any lighter. I don't see where that line... Obviously, the line is coming.
Off-screen overtake there from
see...
Azzy, moving up to the lead of this group now. Cameras just didn't quite catch it, but possibly moving out of the chicane.
Yeah, what that looked like to me is Tristan going wide slightly, catching the car, and Azzy just being let through there. Unfortunate for Tristan, but I don't think this is his fight, unfortunately.
You never know, a big unsteady moment coming round into the final few corners of the circuit. Running a little bit wide throughout this second to last hairpin, heading into pit lane himself as well.
Could it be time for the inters? If I know Tristan knows strategy. If Tristan is pitting for the inters, it might be time. It might be time.
Of course, we can see that dry line is forming. It just depends. It depends entirely how long that dry line lasts per lap.
It is.
Because
inters for Tristan.
Cars are getting more spaced out, but that line is definitely still forming. Finnell of Freezing and penalty for multiple warnings. That obviously also letting Azzy jumping up away from this group a little bit. 1.4 seconds she is ahead, and Blah is just a little too far off the back of the Aston Martin.
So there's 2 ways you can look at this race now. You could take the risk, pit for inters. You're not too sure. Obviously, it is going to hit that intermediate running point in the race. Everyone ahead of you is going to pit for inters. You could pit for inters, be exactly where you are, or you could risk it. Go as long as you can on the wets. Absolutely hammer it. Because people are going to pit early because they want to be on the fastest tyre. That's the mentality you get into. I want to be on the fastest tyre that I can use and get to the end. None of these tyres are going to get there. So you've got to think, what is the fastest tyre? If people want to get on the inters, they'll go on the inters. But if you really want to plan the strategy right, you've got to think, right, if I can push these wets to the edge, right to the very end, and then pit, you're going to be on a much better strategy.
Indeed, but quick proposition for you. Do you think with the rate of drying we're seeing, we might see even like slick compound conditions by the end of the race? Obviously it's not there yet. We see a very late dive into pit lane by Harris and M.
I don't think this is going to dry out for slicks. If this was on a 100% race, maybe. I don't think we're going to see it today, though.
The only way to find out is out keeping up through the race. We've already seen a lot of people are now going to rush in for the inters, it looks like. We're only 11 laps in, and this was a 90% wet start. Of course, reaching down at 60 minutes, which is very close to the ending of this race, is only scheduled to be at 5%, so we'll just have to wait and see and keep watching, but things are starting to get a little bit more spread out. Let's jump up to the front between King and Scarlet. Closest two currently on track, half second between them.
Yeah, I mean, King has just sat there comfortably. And I can't lie, I think Scarlet might be getting a bit comfortable now, as the two people behind Scarlet are both on, both have penalties. So I think Scarlet might just be casually just sitting there and enjoying her time in the lead, which I don't blame her, if I'm honest.
Although there is penalties, they are only 3 seconds. That is definitely entirely possible to get that far ahead, especially with some of these drivers and how fast they are. But Scarlet, obviously the most recent and currently the only race winner currently running around this track that we've had in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Although I feel like Scarlet does know how to race under pressure. Other than Mexico, sorry, Scarlet. I say that as she gets a little bit wider there, but once again, that means she has a 3-second buffer. That is 3 seconds that you don't have to worry about what goes on. And if you can just stay ahead of your opponent, which I know Scarlet can, because I've raced Scarlet. I've raced Scarlet a lot. I know how Scarlet is at defending. As King goes
late on the brakes there. See a lot of drivers heading on to Inter. Sorry to interrupt you there, but Azzy as well. Currently the highest running Inter driver without a penalty up in 7th. It is definitely getting to those conditions. I wouldn't be surprised within the next 2 or 3 laps we see this lead pack head into the pit lane.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just to finish with what I was saying, if you can defend, you can force the person behind you to making a mistake. And I mean, King did it before I even got to it, so it just proves it right, I guess.
Indeed, and we see this little group here starting to get back up close to each other, especially Blah coming up to the back of Tristan.
Yeah, that top 4 look to be in the pits now.
Yeah, top 3, top 4 all in pit lane now. I believe it might just give OJ the inherited lead of this race.
Yeah, so with the amount of water that's still on track, it is definitely on that crossover. And as you can see, everyone is struggling with the conditions. I think we're about to get a lot of people getting a lot of penalties. Just trying to push the car, trying to relearn the tyres, and try and relearn the grip levels that are now on the track.
Just going to jump up here to OJ, who took the fastest lap just there now. Going to be on much warmer tyres than these top 3. Might be able to catch up just a little bit to Finnell.
I would not be surprised if I saw an OJ move on Finnell this lap. 0.8 of a second. And obviously Finnell is on cold inters, which offer about the same amount of grip as a wheel made of concrete. So I would definitely expect to move sometime in this lap.
Indeed he is. He's already gained about 0.1 of a second. It was even dipping into about 0.2, but he's dropping back a little bit now. Moving on to chat, Impulse Official, what happened to Azzy? It was a big spin a couple of laps ago. She's back up to where she qualified in 5th, but not had the greatest of races from her. Might possibly be one to forget later on.
I mean, don't count her out. We're about a third of the way through this race. Plenty of time to make an improvement.
Oh, of course. There's also the fact she is not carrying a penalty. The only one in the top 5 apart from her to do so is Scarlet, and she is definitely gaining up to the back of OJ, and of course as soon as he catches up to Finnell, those two are going to start battling and slow each other down.
Yeah, so the way you've got to look at it is obviously with them penalties, obviously in the FVC we don't remove penalties. So if you take the penalties into consideration, as he is currently sitting in P3, which very, very easily could be P2 if you can get ahead of Finnell and then 3 seconds behind King, which means that the only person then is Scarlett, which could be out of reach today. Scarlett's shown a lot of pace, but so has Azzy. And if Azzy obviously keeps it out of the wall, she keeps it on the track. I think we could be in for a pretty good one today. Um, a champion in the FVC versus well, hopefully a soon-to-be champion, a champion in the making in Azzy. So hopefully we could have a good race here today.
Indeed. Regardless of which way it goes, Azzy will be keeping the lead of the standings. We can see 79 points over Blaz 51. And third place currently D765, who has 48 points.
Yeah. Surprising that King's not in the top three, if I'm honest.
King is currently sat in fourth, only 1 point behind the Mercedes of D765, so... And actually, it is a fourth and fifth between King and Scarlett. Both have 47 points. It is very close, that second all the way down to sixth group. Only 9 points between them. But Azzy is running away with the lead of the championship, as well as running away with lap times. Another fastest lap, a 1:30.443.
I think Azzy's just found where the limit is. And I think he's going to sit on that limit for the rest of the race. I've listened to Azzy while she's racing. I know the focus, the concentration that Azzy puts in. Azzy will fight to the very end, and that is why I believe that Azzy will definitely make it up there to fight with Scarlett today. Don't count her out yet, because you're going to see something magical here today.
She's definitely catching up very quickly to the back of OJ. Just got himself another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Only half second, and a couple of laps ago it was a full second, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see the pressure that Azzy is putting on OJ. OJ, obviously, an unbelievable driver in the dry. A very, very good driver in the wet, but does like to buckle under pressure. Azzy setting another purple sector. Unbelievable.
Another fastest lap from the Haas driver. We've heard the statement of intent from her earlier in the season, but this is just the proof of that happening. Struggling to get out of the hairpin corners, unsurprisingly not running any traction control compared to some of the other drivers, but her sheer pace at 1:30.315 from King
responds.
Just stealing it, but Azzy a 1:30.162, but Thunderbird a 1:30.0. All in a row. Could be seeing a 29s very shortly.
I think the track might be drying, you know.
It definitely is. If we see from the onboard, the rain, it is still falling, but it is nowhere near as hard as it was at the start of this race. And we still have about 20 laps to go. FB Pixels a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Up to 11 seconds total for him. It is not going to be a good race on that side of the Aston Martin garage. But running in 7th currently, Potato very close there to OJ goes Azzy.
Yeah, see, this is the issue now. Azzy needs to get the overtake on OJ if she wants to make any improvements up the field. Really, her best option is going to be into that turn 1 hairpin. Well, we've got no DRS today. That's going to be a bit of an issue. But it's also going to help. If you can get ahead into turn 1, she's not going to be under threat into turn 2 and turn 3. So she needs to get it done there.
You say that.
The issue is she can't get the traction down. Compared to OJ getting the better traction, I can only assume due to traction control.
You say that, getting past at turn 1, having no threat into 2 and 3, but we've seen the other drivers are able to go side by side with Azzy through that section up until about turn 4. So, of course, running no traction control there could be a very nervous, as there is a 1:29.6 from King. And not a fastest lap response from Azzy, just having to slow down a little bit due to the Williams in front. Not close enough to make any move. Not surprising, it was a very long way back. Bit of counter steer having to go through turn 1. She is definitely catching on the straight. That Haas, it looks to be one of the fastest cars in a straight line on track, but obviously you're sacrificing your cornering ability, and in the wet, that could be detrimental compared to some cars. Very unsteady going over the curbs, and AstroTurf again. King gets another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings.
I hate to say it, but I think Azzy might be in at P2 with that penalty. I think King might drop behind not only Azzy, but maybe even Thunderbird, I want to say. So Azzy currently in P5, but in P2. King gonna need to start putting in some laps if he wants to keep hold of that P2, because that's 6 seconds that he needs to get ahead of Azzy and 3 seconds ahead of Finnell, which he has.
Indeed, but we could possibly see Azzy getting a penalty just a little bit. I have seen her running over the curbs and over the limits a couple of times, so I don't know how many warnings she is on now, but it must be getting close to that sort of penalty region, which would just be detrimental even further to her attempts to get up the field.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues running no traction control. It's that you do struggle with track limits. Running over the curbs, losing the car.
Lap times have been tumbling down over the past few laps. We're approaching into the 28s very shortly.
Could this turn into a dry race? Could
very
that be
might,
all down the inside?
Very ambitious, having to jump onto the onboard view as the TV cameras don't give us a great view. Going to be side by side through turn 3. Going to be very risky up through turn 4. OJ just getting a little bit ahead, but Azzy is still there on that rear axle, heading up to the side pod. They're going to be wheel to wheel. Having a cockpit, OJ running slightly off the road, having to just abort a little, but stays ahead.
To me, that would be, well, going from an in-game perspective, an illegal overtake. I don't know if the game has triggered that, but the fact that OJ isn't slowing down, I'm assuming not.
I think it
Fair
did.
play.
So very risky through the wet conditions. That's a hard enough corner to go one wide when it's dry,
let alone 2 wide in the wet. That was phenomenal defense from OJ.
Huge dive.
How's the inside?
Heading into what I believe is turn 12. Going to be side by side heading into the hairpin of 13. She's on the outside disadvantage line, running off the dry line. Rosenquist 3-second play for multiple warnings. Going to be still there though. Now heading to the inside line for the final corner. King a 129.160, setting a new fast lap of the race, but just getting ahead, having to run off the dry line to cool down those tyres, and unsurprisingly from that dive.
Might I say, what an overtake.
Here comes OJ having a look down the inside again, just not close enough to make it work, but that was a huge dive, somehow making it stick.
Where did that come from?
A few miles back is where it comes from.
So what I've been trying to tell a lot of the drivers this season is the issue you have running with assists is that you don't get the feel of the car. Azzy obviously has the feel of the car because she runs no assists. The difference you get with that is obviously you get good launches, as you've seen with me running no assists. You get obviously a lot more feel, which means you can tell when there's something wrong with the car. You can control the car, get it to turn a little bit more. And if you can get the braking right, as we've just seen there, you can pull off some amazing overtakes. You can pull off what ABS can't do. Because in theory, you can brake quicker than what ABS can do. And what we've just seen there is a prime example of that. And what an unbelievable overtake.
About a lap later, 1.1 second gap.
You know, I have a feeling that Azzy might have been held up a little bit there. Well, being a bit held up, but I think she's just been let loose.
Momentarily had the fast lap from Scarlett before it went to King, and now Finnell, and now Azzy, 128.4. That was a huge jump, 0.4 of a second. Changed hands from a 29.0 down to a 28.4.
You know, about 5 laps ago when I said don't count Azzy out?
Yep.
Yep, I have a feeling that we should listen to that. Because she is now 1.2 away from Finnell.
She's definitely moving up quite quickly. We'll keep an eye on that gap as well as this gap between OJ and Thunderbird. Let's jump down to the battle for 14th between Mo Sullivan and Demon. Obviously 3-second difference in penalties going in favour of Demon. These two are still going to be doing everything they can down this end of the field.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you come here to race. If you're not in the points, it's unfortunate. But if as long as you have a good time, that's what matters. That's why I don't feel too bad about my 2 points this season because I've had some good battles this season. Um, but yeah, I feel like some of the back end battles are some of the best because you just don't know what you're gonna be thrown into. You don't know what you're throwing yourself into. You're driving into the unknown in a sense. At the front, you know everyone's going to be quick, and you know everyone's going to be doing pretty much the same thing because they all know they want to win. At the back,
Speaking of up the front, it's a 128.0 for Azzy, gaining very quickly up to Fennel. Even going to be making a move into turn 1, later braking again. Up into third on track and still not carrying a penalty. It's 5.6 seconds up to King, however, King is still carrying that 6-second penalty.
yep, this is going to be pushed to the end now. 14 laps to catch, overtake King, and try something on Scarlet. I feel like catching that gap should be the easy part. Overtaking King is not.
Of course, because King
obviously
still
we've been in
want
this
that
situation before, and as he went for a quick 360, so hopefully this time we can stay in the straight line.
Hopefully indeed, but already pulled a second down on that gap to King, and King and Scarlet are about a second away from each other. They're going to be battling soon. It's another purple middle sector for Azzy, going even quicker this time round.
What a driver. What an unbelievable driver. I knew she was quick, but a second on King in a lap.
It's going to be closer to about 1.5 coming over the line as well, setting another fastest lap. It's a 27.6. We'll keep an eye on that gap coming down.
The only thing that could shake this race up more is dry tyres.
Well, if we get another safety car, it might just delay it that little bit more to that point we get it, as we see Thunderbird making a move on OJ at turn 1. Thunderbird also is not carrying a penalty.
Yeah, Thunderbird could end up on the podium here. If Thunderbird can make a few more moves, catch up to the back of that group.
There's Azzy, 3-second penalty for multiple warnings to the Haas driver.
That changes things now, as he's now got to catch 8.8 of a second to be ahead of King.
No, it's 3.9 she needs to catch to King, and then there's a second gap and get 3 seconds ahead of Scarlet, all within the next about 13 laps.
Not impossible.
It isn't, and of course there are a number of other factors that could change that, both in her favour and in the favour of Scarlet too.
Yeah, definitely. The race isn't won until the checkered flag drops.
Currently retiring.
That is a retirement. Safety car, maybe?
Safety car is deployed, heading down to the onboard of Mo Sullivan, just left-hand side. Well, it's a weird place to crash. Looks like possibly overcorrected into the barriers, but a full safety car deployed. Lap 22 of 35.
You know when you just said that something big could change this race?
Something big has changed this race. Scarlet into pit lane, getting a set of medium compounds, dry compound tyres for the Alpine driver.
That
is mediums for Thunderbird and for OJ, or for Fennel actually.
That is a ballsy move.
A number of drivers are electing to go onto the slick compounds. Totaling about 5 of them now. Pixels, more penalties. That.
Oh, look at the track. There is none. I don't think that's the right call there.
We'll just have to wait and see what it's like on green flag. They might elect to go back in, but a number of them have decided that's no grip there for OJ or Thunderbird. But more of them keep going on to mediums.
No, I don't think that's the correct call there. That is a poor decision.
Unless Tristan, though, has also
dries up within the next lap.
Tristan himself has decided, and you said yourself this guy was the one to watch for strategy, and he's elected to go in the medium compound too.
Oh, normally I'd say I'm the one to watch for strategy, but I don't even know what to do here. Yeah, this is a very interesting situation that we haven't seen in a very long time in the FVC. We've never had a proper crossover period in about I don't know, a season and a half now. So I think a lot of these drivers, some of these new drivers this season, and some that joined into FVC2 last. Oh, there
big
we go.
spin
There's a
there for
crash.
Tristan, breaking the front wing under safety car.
Yeah, a very, very difficult conditions. Obviously, it's not raining anymore, but the track is still very wet.
Completely
Tristan
destroyed that
without a
front wing.
As he is in, so
As
maybe
he
it is
into
time
pit
for
lane.
mediums.
We'll keep an eye on what she elects to take. Heading down to her pit box. It's not changed on the graphics, still saying intermediates, heading into the box there. That looks to me like mediums for Azzy.
Medium tyres for Azzy. Oh, this race just got interesting. Because you know what that means now? Oh!
Immediately spins, keeps it out of the wall. Very, very lucky indeed for her. Just out of the pit lane.
That is ridiculous. I can't lie. I did not expect that at all. I wouldn't be on mediums right now. Not at this moment in time. This is treacherous, to say the least.
Would you be on slick tyres at all in this condition? If you had a set of softs, which I would think would be the ideal because you've got the most grip for a slick.
Well, you'd think that. Well, it's weird. In real life, it wouldn't. If it was real life, you'd want the hardest compound possible. Because they move. Is it the hardest? I'm not too sure. I'm going to be quiet because I think I've just mixed two sets of tyres up. Either way, by the looks of things, I would not be on these tyres. It looks way too treacherous out there to be on dries at the moment. And the fact that as he just put the power down and span instantly out of the pits sort of tells me where we're at in this race. I think we're about maybe 5 laps from proper dry lap running. But that's still like 2 or 3 laps not under safety car in the rain. So
safety car is staying out because a lot of drivers are still trying to get themselves caught up.
I think the race here is going to be Azzy, Scarlett and King, but it's going to be King trying to defend on what I would say is the superior tyre here. And Azzy still hasn't caught up. Doesn't have wing damage, I don't think, but he's just struggling to get them tyres
Rosenquist
warm.
Retiring from the session. Heading over
I think
to
Rosenquist just
Pixels.
spun up.
See what happened there, coming out of turn 4
on
to
the
the
left.
left-hand side wall, breaking that front left wheel on the medium compound. They were
Unfortunate, but it's going to happen. That corner was going to claim at least one victim today. That curb on the right hand side, it is just very slippy. You run it too wide, you run it too hard, and you are going round. One issue we've now got, well, Azzy has now got, I should say, is that Azzy is now behind OJ, Thunder, and Finnell. If Azzy hadn't have spun out the pits, she'd be behind Scarlett. So Azzy has now got on cold medium tyres, which don't work in the rain, overtake 4 people before she gets anywhere near the people she's racing.
indeed.
And the part where she has to pull out 3 seconds on both Scarlett and Thunderbird.
Safety car in this lap, the confirmation coming through from race control. King slowing them right all the way down. Trying to get just any last bit of heat into those intermediates that you can. As well as letting...
I don't think this is trying to get heat into tyres. I think this is trying to cool the cars behind down. Because he knows that these tyres are the tyres to be on at this moment in time.
A little bit ambitious on the throttle, getting back going again. I'd also call that not the greatest place to start accelerating. But out of the final corner, back to green flag. That's a huge gap already. 2.8, 2.9, over 3 seconds now to the medium compound runners. Jumping back to the first intermediates. They're going to be 3 wide into the first corner. The Ferrari, the Haas, Mercedes, and the Haas teammate. The intermediates are flying up the field, but they're going to get stuck behind the medium compound runners. They're all off the track. They can't turn. There's no grip for them. It's going to be a scramble as they try and get back to the pit lane. But the intermediate tyres just completely outclassing the medium runners. The Haas moving up the field completely. Scarlet falling down. Geordie's moved up into second place. Demon up into third.
Look at the gap. Look at the gap that King has.
6.5 seconds.
Phenomenal.
Falling all the way down to 10th. Azzy has completely went backwards. The Inters are all now in the top 5. And they were quite a far way down behind a lot of the medium runners, but now it's going to be a rush back to pit lane.
Place. Geordie started last. Geordie's in second. Mo Sullivan had an accident on lap 1 and was actually last coming across the line for the first lap. Mo Sullivan is now in 4th. You thought this race was over. It's not over anymore. It might be for the win, but it's not for that podium position because the Inters just have it.
There's no grip at all for these medium competitors. Look how slow they're going. Coming round the final few corners, all going to be rushing into pit lane. I'd be surprised, but no, Scarlet and they're all deciding to not go in. They're staying out.
It's not going to dry up, guys. Pit for Inters and just recover what you can.
None of them have elected to go in. They're all staying out all the way. They're just losing time to themselves even more. Jumping up again, the battle for third place. Demon and Sullivan trying to go any way around. There's a yellow sector 2. That's going to be Tristan off the road. Looks to be still in the race. Not sure of any damage to that car, but these two are going to be at it. They're going to be going 3 ways for the battle for third. Nose to tail all the way down.
Unbelievable. I don't even know why everyone's pitted onto mediums. I'm assuming it's just a chain reaction, but I still wouldn't be. I would not be pitting for mediums at all. One absolutely mind-boggling event.
But we've seen...
There's that Finnell dropping now. Finnell's had an accident.
Finnell's spun himself around, but we've seen just how quickly the intermediates were going around the outside even of the hairpins compared to the medium competitive runners, but then they elected not to go in despite seeing their massive disadvantage. We see there's going to be the battle for second now. The only one not in this fight is King, who's 10 seconds up the road, but there's another retirement. Pixels up the last corner.
That's another safety car.
And he's hit the pit wall. It is a virtual safety car deployed. There was a piece falling off there from one of the cars that we were following along with. I'm not quite sure for who. I'll jump up and see if I can find out. Looks to be a fine front wing for Geordie. I can't see the shades, were just too far away, and the Red Bull looks fine as well.
I think that was front wing from the Aston Martin there.
It might have been, but it was in a weird place and it was getting hit around a lot. I'd be surprised if a couple of cars... In fact, it's a full safety car has been deployed now.
Full safety? Oh, it has.
Into pit lane for Finnell. I'd be surprised if we don't see a couple possibly gambling back onto the intermediates from that medium group. If you're on the
medium tyres now, pit. Pit for it.
Softs. It is softs for Finnell.
Soft tyres. Oh, and the story continues. Right. Interesting call. It still looks like an off-sprink out there.
Jumping on board. The rain has stopped falling.
But it had stopped at the last restart. It stopped at the last restart and looked just like this. There's no dry line. And the track... what I think we're about to see is everyone's going to catch up to the safety car, and instead of the Inters coming through, we're just going to see the Inters shoot off. Unless we now see the track dry out and all the medium runners come through. I think King's in.
King's coming in.
There's no way. There's no way this is medium territory now.
He had a 12-second advantage going into pit lane. We'll ride on board with him, see what tyres he comes onto in pit lane. And look, it's slicks. It's slicks for King. It's softs.
Softs.
Also into pit lane is Sullivan too. But the rest of those inters, the top 3, are going to be on intermediates.
Oh,
looking
Sullivan,
again for Haas. It's going to be slick. It's soft slicks for Sullivan.
And let's put it this way: if Sullivan can make it work, and Sullivan gets ahead of Scarlett, maybe. Oh, I don't think it's going to be. Sullivan could be on the podium here.
Top 3 on inters.
the Haas reserve could get onto the podium by sheer strategical luck.
The top 3 Inters, the top 2 of them being 17 laps old, and the rest all the way down are slicks. Whichever way this goes, it's promising to be interesting. Because if it's in the favour of the Inters, Dorado's got the advantage. If it's dry, these slick runners are going to massacre the intermediates.
Right, so the track looks greasy. I'm not saying wet, and I'm not saying dry. It's in the middle. I think we're now on the crossover for dries. I don't know what's going to perform better, because obviously their Inters are going to be warm. They're warm tyres, but they're warm. These new tyres that everyone's put on, they were all running around in the wet. They're going to be absolutely freezing. So, we could either see a warming situation where the Inters take off again and takes a couple of laps for the softs to kick in, which we don't really have a couple of laps after the safety car, or they warm up straight away and we see a massacre of the top 3. Or we're all completely wrong, it's still Inters running and they go on to get a 1-2-3 all on Inters.
The intermediate drivers are going in though. Geordie's staying out, but Demon and Dorado are going in for slicks. I'm going to take a wild guess.
That might be it.
Jumping down, let's have a look at Mercedes. It's softs for Demon. It's indeed. Geordie is the only one left on the Inters.
Haas drivers, please don't crash. That's all I'm wanting. Obviously, I don't want anyone to crash, but
OJ there in our chat, one of the drivers in this race, saying it is completely dry. It's went from a couple of laps ago. It's went from a full wet down to a full dry, and depending on when this safety car goes in, Geordie now is in the worst possible situation. 18-lap-old intermediates versus a flurry of slick compounds, some of which are fresh softs.
This is the case of Geordie. How good is your defending?
He's got to defend
it's a hard
from
track to overtake around here.
It's 14 other cars for what, about 5 laps? He'll never do that on those tyres.
I mean, maybe.
I don't see it, I'm going to be honest. It is... I put the proposition up at the start of this race, if we'd see the dry compound tyres, and indeed we are.
We're seeing it, and we're seeing it in actually an amazing fashion, where we actually have a really interesting race. It's going to be a 5-lap sprint to the end, I think. If the safety car comes in this lap, I don't think it is.
It's not. It's past the lines. It's going around one more time. This is Geordie's last shot to head into pit lane and his last hope of redeeming it, but he'll still be down at last. In fact, no, it is coming in. Safety car in this lap.
A late call in from the stewards.
It's a very, very late call from race control.
And we're going to see
a race where Geordie has to
stay out and try and defend into turn 1 from a very, very fast King.
Geordie's Here he goes. Gone. There is absolutely there's no King's water left on that track. Those Inters are going to be overheating immediately.
You got to hope now, if you're Geordie, that they've turned into Interflix, hopefully, because King is on your tail, and King is going to make a move.
Drivers falling down. Blah and Psycho, I think, came together at the back of the field. Our pole sitter going from bad to worse. Here comes King. They're going to be coming together and almost running off the track. Geordie just keeping it together, as is King, but he's going to be on the outside line on the worn intermediate tyres, heading to going to be too wide through this corner. Ambitious move there from King, somehow making it work with Scarlett. Heading down now. The next hairpin. Scarlett's got the inside line. King's just ever so slightly blocked off, having to make a quick jerk to the right. He's going to be in the inside against Geordie's Ferrari. Also coming through is going to be Sullivan.
He down the inside?
No, that's Mo. He's spun round. Mo falling down the field. Also getting good with Geordie. He's getting absolutely swamped by the rest of the cars. He's completely in the middle of all of them.
Oh, that's heartbreaking for Mo. Absolutely heartbreaking. Mo was up there fighting for 4th. Now down there, sitting in 15th. Heartbreak for debutant.
Continuing to fall down. He made a gamble, but it did not pay off for him. He thought it was going to be still wet on the restart, having to take advantage of King. Here he goes into pit lane, unsurprisingly, to get off of those destroyed Inters. 1:22. It's a huge jump for the new fastest lap for King, but here comes Harrison M on the medium to McLaren. 22.3. Jumping back up to the front of this race. Azzy is right there against Thunderbird, but Scarlett is in the best possible position, not carrying a penalty.
Scarlett's just got damage limitation now. Don't lose any positions. Stay behind King.
It's
That's
a
all
6
Scarlett
second
needs to do.
penalty to King.
That puts King behind Binnell, I want to say.
It'll be putting him a long way down. This race is very tightly packed after that late safety car. The only one out of it right now really is Jordy and Mo. But of course they keep coming together. That's Demon now getting forced down the order, falling to 13th, possibly getting shuffled out of the way from his own incident, coming around the hairpin of, I want to say that's turn 5, a very long right-hander.
This has been an absolutely phenomenal race. Azzy
Here comes
really
Azzy having a look around the outside. Just somehow making it stick around the outside through the final few corners of the circuit.
That was great. Great car control there from Azzy. Azzy really becoming alive in these dry conditions.
It's down to 19th now for King.
Azzy does need to pull.
And there's DRS. The DRS is open
from Harrison.
The DRS is enabled for the final few laps of this race.
This is going to get interesting. I think we might be about to see another Scarlet Wing.
At the end, he's falling down the order himself. He's out of the points.
So let's do the maths quickly. We've got 2 laps. King will drop 6 seconds. So everyone from about Finnell upwards will move up, which makes Scarlet the winner, Azzy in second, and Thunderbird in third. And Potato on his debut back will be in fourth.
But of course, there's still those couple of laps remaining, and Potato is right there following this group. And of course, this group's going to be battling still, slowing themselves down.
This race is a long way from over, and I am all for it. What a great race we've had. I said at the beginning that today is either going to be an absolute phenomenal race or an absolute stinker. And
it is definitely the way that we prefer it. There's only going to be about, I want to say, 3 or so minutes left in this race, but there is still a lot left unsaid, and we only have, I want to say, 2 more racing laps left to go.
On to lap 34 now. Anything could happen. As Azzy makes a move,
making a move up into second on track, still carrying that 3-second penalty. He's going to be dropping down a little bit. Alternating position is going to be Dorado and Tristan, keeping an eye on what happens there, but we're going to be keeping a focus up at this front battle.
So, King will take it on track, but will not take the win. So this is the case now of, can Azzy pull out 3 seconds to Scarlett in a lap and a half?
It's medium compounds for both of them, and they're very quick drivers, so she doesn't have the tyre advantage. The Demon's retired in pit lane. Hopefully that car does not keep rolling. Hopefully it'll just disappear where it is sat. It isn't moving again, but no, it is going again. It might pose a threat to these front runners as it comes back out on track.
Hopefully not. Hopefully it will stay ghosted. But currently, with 1 lap to go, that's a 1.1 seconds that's Azzy has.
Judging on that rate, it's not going to be enough.
It might just not be enough. It all depends on this final lap.
It's a huge jump there from a 19.1 to an 18.2. Azzy takes the fastest lap of the race. Of course, under pressure here is Scarlett's going to be under pressure from Thunderbird as well, so that could just give her a little bit more leeway, but that's down to now 0.7 of a second. Something big mistake from Azzy through turn 1.
This has been a absolutely brilliant race. A race that I'm so glad I could come into the commentary box and watch with everyone at home. I think we might be about to see our first 2-time winner here in Budapest. And what more of a deserving person to take a 2-time win than Scarlett? Unbelievable driver, really pushing the women forward in this league. both obviously her and Azzy, the two forefront faces of women in the league. And yeah, what a brilliant drive from both of them today.
Indeed it has been. Coming around the final corner, King is going to take it on track, but that 6-second penalty will put him down the order. As he doesn't move ahead, Scarlet will win the Hungarian Grand Prix. King takes second, Azzy's third, and Thunderbird missing out just in 4th place. Mateo comes home finishing 5th, English in 6th, and 7th goes to Dorado. In fact, no, 7th goes to Harrison M. Dorado taking 8th, WR Tristan in 9th, and Blah, the pole sitter, has to settle for 10th place. It is only one single point after what looked to be so promising at the start. Rest of the grid is Finnell taking 11th, 12th goes to Psycho, 13th Geordie just getting that gambled wrong at the final restart, and 14th after a very unfortunate contact goes to Mo Sullivan. 15th will be given to Demon DNFing just in pit lane, 16th to Pixel, 17th goes to Rosenquist, 18th to Curly, and 19th for HP8.
Welcome back, Roma. Welcome back. Lovely to see you.
Driver of the day is given to Dorado in game. Voting will be open very shortly on the app, so you can give who you think is the most deserving.
Unku, who is your driver of the day today?
It really could have went any way. Azzy made a number of very, very good moves, and that definitely puts her in the contention for it. But of course, Scarlet, the first 2-time winner at the Hungarian circuit. There's a number of people that are very deserving of it. Of course, our winner there, walking out onto the podium, very, very deserving winner. Could be the one that takes it. But again, any of them up there could be the one that takes it.
It really is a highly contested driver of the day, and really just an unbelievable race. I am grinning from ear to ear. This was something brilliant today. This was something special. It looked fun. It looked interesting. We got some very interesting strategy, and still, I feel a deserving winner came out on top. Yeah, unbelievable stuff.
A very deserving winner indeed. Scarly42 wins the Hungarian Grand Prix for the 2023 FVC Summer Series. 2nd place goes to the McLaren of King, and 3rd, the championship leader and fastest lap of a 1:18, a huge gap, 9/10 of a second, clear of the rest of the field, Azzy. 4th place goes to Thunderbird, and 5th, Mateo, returning to the FVC after a long absence. 6th place goes to OJ English, 7th to Harrison M, 8th to Eldorado, 9th to WR Tristan, and 10th is our pole sitter for Blyapper. Moving on the rest of the grid, Finnell has to settle for 11th, 12th goes to Psycho, 13th to Borna Jordi after a very unfortunate restart, 14th goes to Sullivan, and that is our final finisher. Demon will be classified as he retired in pit lane to the end in 15th. Pixels takes 16th, 17th goes to Rosenquist, 18th to Curly, and 19th for HP8.